Hello friends, my name is Adolfo Castañeda. I'm the Director of Hispanic Education for Human Life International, and I welcome you to this first short video out of 8 about the topic Sex Education Perverts Our Children. We begin with an introduction. In a training pro-life course, which I invite you all to take, at the end of this video you will see my email for that purpose. Anyway, in our training course we treated this topic, but the most recent information that we have in that course is from 2022. In this video and in this presentation and the ones we will follow, we would like to update our information about sex education. There are several new developments that we would like to address about this issue. The promoters of sex education call it comprehensive sex education, CSE. It's an euphemistic term to allure, to attract young people, young minds, and deceive their parents. Comprehensive sex education is the door to the rest of the culture of death. Why so? Because it perverts the minds of children, teens, and young adults to accept abortion, contraception, fornication, and LGBT ideology. And I want to clarify from the very beginning that as we condemn abortion and these other evils, we're not condemning people, we're condemning these acts. We invite anyone who's fallen into these evil things for conversion and healing, especially when it's Catholics, through the sacrament of confession. The Catholic Church also has ministries of post-abortion healing and reconciliation. Continuing with our introduction, most new developments have taken place at the UN, the United Nations, with the collaboration of abortion giants like IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation, and European liberal politicians. We're going to concentrate on the comprehensive sex education of the UN, first in general and then on several agencies. But again, keep in mind that this sex education, this evil sex education, is also promoted by other anti-life international organizations like the one I just mentioned, IPPF, and others. The comprehensive sex education of the United Nations in general, we begin with the Treaty on Cybercrime. In December 2024, the UN produced a new treaty on cybercrime. That is to say, it prohibits web child pornography. But the problem is that it only prohibits real images of child pornography, not artificial intelligence produced images. So that United Nations is really allowing for child pornography in the internet. And nations are now unfortunately in the process of signing this evil treaty. Now we continue with the sex education of the UN. In this case, we approach the topic of the Youth Forum. In April 2025, the UN carried out a 3-day youth forum. Young leaders manipulated by the UN participating to be its key agents. In other words, the UN manipulated these young minds, these young people, to be their agents in promoting this type of sex education, this evil sex education among their peers, to promote, in other words, the UN agenda among children, teens, and young adults, especially abortion, contraception, and the whole gender LGBT ideology. In other words, what happened was that youth at the forum themselves, again, under the manipulation of the UN, asked for development of technologies to promote better access to abortion, artificial intelligent AI systems to so-called normalize gender identities, gender ideology, and apps to offer better access to comprehensive sex education, CSE. The umbrella that covered all these efforts was the UN 2030 agenda. We have exposed this anti-life family agenda in another presentation, another series of videos which I invite you to watch. That agenda promoted LGBT ideology and globalism. In other words, the efforts to come up with a one-world government by supranational elites. It also promoted population control under the guise of saving, end quote, saving the planet from so-called climate change, another ideology that we have exposed in a series of videos, and I would like you to watch too, especially in poor pro-life countries like in Africa. That agenda blamed climate change, CC, on human activity and breathing CO2, carbon dioxide. All of this is false, and we again expose this in another series of presentations designed on climate change, the ideology of climate change, besides the UN 2030 agenda. Now we address the topic of the comprehensive sex education, CSE, of UNFPA. UNFPA stands for the United Nations Population Fund. Perhaps it's the most pro-abortion of all agencies of the UN. It collaborated with the horrible communist government of China in its infamous program, One Child Per Family Only, that included abortion, forced and forced sterilizations. That program has been suspended by that tyrannical government because it has created a tremendous population implosion in China. That country is aging and is facing dramatic problems in economics. Anyway, from 2022 to 2023, the UNFPA used an AI, artificial intelligence system called early warning system for teens in Zambia, Rwanda, and Namibia, but possibly in other parts of the world as well. And the reason for this was to spy on these teens and their use of social media in real time to detect so-called early signs of negative, for them, views on reproductive health, and to change their attitudes into positive ones towards reproductive health. And we know that reproductive health includes contraception, abortion, and gender ideology or gender identity. In April 2025, now we go to the Comprehensive Sex Education of WHO, the World Health Organization. In April 2025, WHO published a new guide, supposedly to update a previous one of 2011. Anyway, this guide promotes sexual and reproductive rights. We know already what that is. Despite disagreement among nations, this should not be promoted to children and other minors, teens, etc. in UN documents. Now, this new guide of the WHO, it claims to prevent pregnancies, this is their own words, among teens in poor countries by means of self-injectable long duration contraceptives. For example, the dangerous and abortifacient Depo-Provera, which caused a lot of problems to African women because of Bill Gates, obsessed with population control, had a program for several years in that continent. WHO complains that teens reject contraceptives. They have the audacity to do this, and because of its adverse effects, which are blood clots, heart problems, breast cancer, among others. This is incredible. WHO claims that these complaints from teens is the result of misinformation, when it's actually they who are spreading this misinformation by denying this reality, the fact that these injectables produce these side effects. Continuing with this topic, WHO also includes the ideology of gender in this guide. It tells children 5 to 8 years old about gender ideology, and of course parents are ignored. This is why, and for other reasons too, that President Trump of the United States and President Javier Milei of Argentina withdrew from WHO. Nevertheless, the World Health Organization, WHO, gets a lot of money from other countries and from Bill Gates, who is a fan of this organization. Now we address the topic of how comprehensive sex education is in the UN Child Rights Committee. What's new in it? In its forthcoming general comments on children's access to so-called justice, this committee promotes abortion for minors and undermines parental rights. This committee is one that monitors countries' compliance with the Convention of the Rights of the Child, which is nothing about promoting abortion. But anyway, that's what they do. These committees misinterpret and misapply in a pro-abortion way the content of these conventions. Argentina strongly objected to this new garbage from the United Nations for promoting teen abortions and gender ideology and for violating parental rights and national sovereignty. Gender ideology, now we address the topic of gender ideology within comprehensive sex education. We're going to do so in a very summary fashion because we're already preparing another set of videos dedicated solely to gender ideology and LGBT. So this will be just a summary. Gender ideology is not new in comprehensive sex education, but recently comprehensive sex education promoters have pushed for sex change more than before. They call it euphemistically gender transition care, when it is anything but. Gender clinics, or so-called clinics, have proliferated in the United States. They make big money destroying children's health and bodies. Planned Parenthood, the big abortion giant in the United States, has become one of its biggest promoters. There's a lot of money in this to be made. It does so precisely through its evil comprehensive sex education. The word gender, we must clarify, used to be applied only to things, not to persons, especially in languages like Spanish, where, for example, the word table is of the feminine gender, and the word, let's say, computer, or let's say the word pencil, is of the male gender, but not to persons. But since the 1950s and 60s, these anti-life sexologists gave it a new definition. That is to say, an internal sexual identity that might not coincide with one's biological sex, which is a real sex. Therefore, according to them, there can be as many genders as there are people. Anyone can choose whatever gender they like from their inside, irrespectively of one's biological real sex, which is really crazy. It is really insane. The whole gender ideology is like this. It's pure insanity. So anyway, this is what I wanted to share with you concerning this issue. There you see in your screen our contact info. Again, I want to emphasize, would like to ask you to visit our YouTube channel, where we have tons of videos, both in English and Spanish, about all the topics pertaining to the defense of life and family. I would like to also to invite you to take our course, our comprehensive course on pro-life issues, a very effective course. You're going to like it a lot. It's also in English and Spanish. For that, you can contact me through my email address located at the bottom of your screen. I would also like to invite you to visit the all-English website, a wonderful pro-life website of Human Life International, of which Vida Internacional is a Hispanic section. Is located, the address, at the bottom of the screen on the right, HLI.org. Thank you for your attention. May God bless you, and I invite you to watch the next video.